You sound good. You sound great, actually. Yeah. Thank you very much, Deanna, for this opportunity to be here today speaking with you. Yes, definitely. Zellulin is basically describing a method that the technology involve taking cells from an animal. In this case, it's fish. We take the cell one time and one time only. And once the cells are adapted to the environment of outside of the animal bodies, then we use the bioprocess to produce a lot more of that animal cells, which is in a totally traceable and sterilized environment in a bioreactor. And then the platform actually do the second step, which basically we harvest all of these cells, we break open the cell membrane and release all of the material inside the cells, which we found a lot of very useful material and component, including signaling protein. And then we also have a process to basically break down this large molecule into smaller chain of peptides so that it's easier for our skin to absorb. And voila, that is the cellulin at the end of the platform. Yes, indeed. In Hong Kong Science Park, we have our R&D lab where we develop the core technology from the beginning, taking the cells as well as growing the cells, and then all of the medium that we need to feed to the cell. And in Singapore is our pilot facility, and basically we do the larger scale production bioprocess there. We have a bioreactor in 250-liter size in which we grow a lot of cells. And we have that facility is also certified ISO 22716. So that means that we're up to the skincare GMP standard in terms of the quality. Yeah, definitely. So the concept is like this. So animal cells, any cells actually produce a lot of material for its own function and purposes. Sometimes some proteins are for communicating between different cells and etc. And do recognize that biologically, our skin actually, we are animals, right? So our skin actually or our body produce proteins or those kind of molecule very different from plant. So from my perspective, because I think making use of animal very similar kind of like biomaterial peptides will be very definitely directly more biologically relevant to our skin cells. So what happened is that when I described about how we do the process, right? So let me explain what happened inside the cell when we break open the membrane. There are a lot of different proteins, basically hundreds of them. And some of them we are very familiar, for example, collagen, etc. And there are also some names that we are not that familiar with as of now in terms of the skincare world. So proteins such as decorin, fubolin, connective tissue growth factors, numicin, etc. So these protein actually exist. They have been individually studied because they do exist inside our bodies, and they have been actually prepare using precision fermentation method for the medical and R&D applications. They are not currently available in the skincare active, so they are actually quite expensive using the current way of production. So what is the interesting situation here is that we can produce this material, multitude of them, all of them actually. So we are actually multipeptides in one go in the proportion that our cells naturally produce them, that they work in a synergy. And so we actually have all of these signal protein for our skin benefit. For example, I can explain a little bit Fubolin. Fubolin is a signaling protein that helps the elastic fiber of our skin to form. So what we see is that in the efficacy test, we see that the subject actually using the product, they have actually the skin elasticity improved after using our product for a few weeks. So, so we see a lot of correlation between the functioning protein that we find in the cells that we break open, and then benefit on the skin in different tests that we have conducted by third-party lab. Yeah, so we have conducted the efficacy test, which is a placebo-controlled single-blind test, and then the benefit is that the material actually, compared to the placebo group, it did a lot more better, like between 3 times to 5 times better in terms of keeping the skin hydrated, preventing water loss, increasing elasticity, firmness, as well as the collagen density of the skin. And we also have conducted consumer perception tests, basically asking a group of users to use that for a few weeks, and then we ask them the feeling on the skin. And they also find that it helped in all of these areas that I've just mentioned. And so these are the other tests that we have also conducted in a formulated product. Yeah, definitely. So it's aqueous based, so it's very easy to work with any formulation that is water based. And it's basically have very, very, very light vegetable kind of flavor. It does not taste like, does not smell fishy at all. We do need to preserve, because it's a peptide, it's quite organic in material. So even though we prepare in a very clean environment, to basically make sure that it is basically free from bacteria. So we do introduce a couple of very commonly used preservative. So that actually gives some hint of light yellowish color to the ingredient. We supply that in solution form because it's much easier to be used. Formulator and manufacturer would not need to rehydrate them. So it's basically a 10% solution, and it can be diluted into 1%. Basically 1 part to 9 part. That will be basically will be at the same dosage that we conducted the efficacy test. But of course, there are also benefits with this ingredient with hydration. So other percentage would also be viable for formulation, depending on the use cases as well as the product claims. Yeah, this is actually a very great question. Imagine like compare, for example, if we want to replenish collagen or EGF or something like that, individual component or molecule, is very similar to taking supplements. For example, vitamin B, vitamin C, basically very focused on one molecule only. But as we know, we cannot survive on eating only pills. Like we cannot eat vitamin A to Z. It will never be identical to eating even an apple. So in this case, it's actually very interesting is that we have all of the trace material. So we do not need a lot of this. We do not need a lot of EGF. We do not need a lot of decorin. Indeed, they don't exist in a very large amount in the whole mixture of the peptide. That is the beauty of that, because the proportion between this element and that element is determined by the nature, by the cells when they produce. That's why we call cell nature cooked the peptide, because it's mixed in a way, and it's the mixture, the different component as well as the ratio between them actually in a balanced way that is naturally occurring in an animal cell. And because of that, there will be no risk of overdosage, because we have heard about vitamin A and the other, we can overdose if we do not use that cautiously. In this case, I would say that none of this component will be overdosed, because you can imagine that we can overdose on apple or overdose on eating food in that regard. So I think I personally see that is very similar to having a tonic food or nutrient for our skin, basically naturally derived, and then they can be absorbed directly by our skin cells. Correct. Yep. Yes, exactly. Like you can imagine like squashing, and that method exists that you squash the whole fish, or you squash the whole apple, and then that is in a form that is digestible by our skin cells. So basically you infuse everything into your skin that they need to conduct the proper functioning. Yeah, that's another very great question. The company started with the aim of trying to reduce our dependency on animal for different kind of lifestyle needs and nutritional needs, such as food, such as and skincare product. We are a biotech company. Our core technology is really growing cells, and in this case, we've chosen to grow fish. There are also a lot of benefit when it comes to food as well, because we grow them in a way that we don't have any heavy metals. So when it comes to food, then it will not be having any marine pollutants or heavy metal in the final fish fillet product, for example. I myself actually been trying to avoid animal product for a number of years. I call myself plant-based when it comes to food. In skincare, actually, I start to pay attention to the ingredient for a number of years. And then I realized that, okay, there are some ingredients I should skip. For example, traditionally make animal-based collagen, etc. So but then I find that, okay, I know that I'm human, right? Then my skin is actually animal skin cells. So I know that there are also some very interesting plant-based ingredient, but then I think that nothing is better than biologically similar to my skin cells. So I've been very curious about if there's any way that we can like achieve that. So very quickly after the company started, we think about what may be the application of the technology. And in addition to food, we believe that skincare is one of the very directly applicable field. So that's why we went ahead to do a lot of an analysis and even created a few patents. We have 3 patents related to this technology now. And then, yeah, we went ahead to develop the product. We need to analyze what is the benefit of this multipeptide on the skin cell in the laboratory, verify that in vitro for some time, and then we need to conduct human tests, right? And then efficacy tests, and consumer tests. So it has a very long journey. It took us a few years, actually. Yeah. Yes, so this is a topic very relevant to the whole cell cultivated product in different sense. For halal, I think because it's a bit more straightforward because we don't have any, so because we work on fish, so fish basically depending on most of the fish species, the species we use actually is not non-halal. And then in our process, we don't use any non-halal material, and the set of facility do not share with any production using non-halal. So we're actually working to get the halal certification for that, and which we already have ISO, so everything is traceable. So it's basically we're going to have that box checked in 2025. That's our target. In terms of vegan, I think I read in the news, Vegan Society already made very clear today, I think recently, that cell-cultivated product cannot be called vegan. I fully understand that. So I think in this case, it would not be a vegan product. And for kosher, we have not started looking into the detail and the requirement of that, but definitely it's an area we're interested to explore whether we fit into that definition later on. Ye Right, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's a good term. We are the first. We are Asia's first cultivated fish company. When we started back in 2018, I think the whole alternative protein trend, in particular cultivated meat, started around 2013. Around that time, with a Professor Mark Poe demonstrated that this technology can prepare and produce a hamburger in the lab without the cow, starting with the cells only. And then I think that is the beginning. That was the beginning of this industry. And by 2018, I think quite a number of companies already exist in other continents. In Asia, there are one or two to begin with. We are the first one actually very focusing on the fish cell cultivation, and definitely the first one in the Greater China area. And yeah, we have the first lab in Hong Kong Science Park. Yeah. Yeah, we have many different fish cell lines. We have grouper, we have snapper, croaker, and for this particular, the first product from this platform, we are using a freshwater fish under the family of carp. The reason because that we find this particular cell line is very durable and very robust, and they're very actually energetic, and so basically it is continuously growing very well in the bioprocess. And so, and also from the data we look at, like the peptide that we test on human skin cell lines, it actually done a very good job in uplifting gene expressions in different kind of like material, like gene that is related to skin health. So I think that is the reason why we choose these fish to begin with for our product. And we already are developing other species, other cell type, also from the marine source for our future second and third product. Yeah, so we actually have found that actually the multipeptide work very well with another active ingredient. So it basically boosts the different two like Zellulin alone and then the other active ingredient alone. They have a certain function, but when we combine them together, in some of the benefit actually multiply. So that is the second product we are doing quite a bit of the product development now and hopefully to be launched in the later part of 2025. As I mentioned, we also have other fish species cells that we're working with. And so that will probably come in the subsequent year as our third product. Sure. I think we definitely fit into that in a broader sense, more about biodiversity, like marine or water. Biodiversity does not only have problem with the ocean because overfishing, pollution, acidification of the ocean, but also like even rivers, like major rivers in some part of the world. I think the overfishing is also a very big problem there. So I think we fit into there. And I think we also engage a third-party consultant to review the carbon footprint. So compared to traditional fish collagen, our carbon emission is actually much lower than traditional fish collagen, and definitely much lower than bovine collagen. I think if you look at how things happen is that like a fish, if we want to take collagen, only the body weight about between not more than 10%, 5% something is the scale and the skin and the tail and everything. Those are the part that we need to conduct quite a lot of extraction process to extract the collagen. So that's why the carbon footprint tends to be relatively higher, while our process make the only thing that we need, and then everything is converted into the peptide. So in that sense, that's why we have also a lower carbon footprint as well. So that's basically go into the conversation of sustainable skincare now, which is very much like a conscious trend among consumer and also the industry. Thank you so much, Deanna. I'm very enjoyed the conversation, and feel free to get in touch. We can definitely share more with those who are interested in the formulation or using this in the product. Thank you.